cash crisis. We're talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary awareness.
All right, we are connected for the Friday news update, and I wanted to just connect for a quick minute. It's been a while since I've done an actual live stream, and so wanted to check in, share my concerns and my thoughts, and just a little bit spooked by the way silver was moving this morning. And from the looks of things, I'm kind of excited that it appears to be reversing just a little bit. So as you can see right over here, let me get my screen together. We're at 46.12 as the markets in the Western Hemisphere get ready to close at some point. But man, just lots of things that just got me questioning. And so I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on some things, just because seeing a lot of excitement, a lot of interesting takes from a lot of commentators out there. And I just thought I would just connect for a quick minute, share my 2 cents, go through some headlines, try to make sense of what's happening. But more importantly, just get ready to relax and enjoy the weekend, because Monday morning is going to be more entertaining events. But for those who are plugged in, let me know where you're watching from. Feel free to let me know in the chats if you guys can hear me, so I'm not just talking to myself. But won't be before you guys long. Just wanted to check in real quick. And it's been a minute since I've actually streamed on YouTube, just because the algorithms haven't been too favorable. But then again, on Rumble, getting more love over there from the algos. So got to go where the attention is. But never going to forget my community over here. We got LBP checking in. We got Jeff checking in as well. Appreciate you guys, man. Silver, of course, gold has been continuously moving since this administration has been in office, but silver is the one that's turning the heads with some continuous highs. And the way that this thing was heading today, I'm like, man, could we get to 50 before the end of the day? But obviously the powers that be decide to put a little ceiling on how high it could go. So it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold in the days ahead. Got greetings. We got, what's up, Maya? We got Adrian checking in. Watching from South Dakota by way of Flint. What's up, my friend? Appreciate you. Thanks for blessing me with your presence. I kind of missed the live streaming side of things on RTD, just on YouTube rather, just because I actually get a chance to communicate and get a chance to see people in the chat and things of that nature. So that's always cool. And so okay, so I just want to get into some headlines, man. Try to talk our way through this just to see what's happening and to find out overall sentiment within the community. How many people have put a pause on their purchase, waiting for a dip, or how many people just dollar costing averages in continuously, or I'd imagine, there's one particular person out there that probably took out a credit card to max it out to get that weight up. So, sound is good. All right, appreciate you guys. Okay, so let's just I want to just check in real quick, man. I was looking at the let me get my screen together here. I was just looking at the figures, man, this morning, and I was doing some other video stuff, and I'm like, man, just before this little cooling off that we're witnessing now, I was more so concerned, and in a not so good way. Like, I was on some cautionary type, like, what's going on here? Like, because when I see a continuous upward trend, like what we witnessed earlier, like when you see this type of anomaly here. So as you can see on the screen here, like going from like, that's like unnatural for silver, especially because it's the people's money. And I'm like, is the people's money about to be set free or what? And so watching it go up, it was like 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, $1, $1.25, $1.50. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, something broke already. Like, something is clearly wrong, and the signal is indicated within the actual fiat price of silver, because silver is the last thing holding everything in place, in my opinion, for a variety of reasons. And so the fact I see more people talking about silver, more people excited about silver, it's like, like cat's out the bag, man. People really starting to wake up. And then earlier this week, like, was it 2 days ago? Was it 2 days ago or yesterday? I'm not sure. I think it was yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry, yesterday. Or as we speak, the fact that you have the Secretary of War calling home all the head generals and stuff for a meeting that's taking place in the upcoming week. And so the fact that you got everybody coming back to the U.S., it must be important. At the same time, silver rallying. At the same time, gold is popping. At the same time, we got the Bitcoin bickering, which of course to me has World Economic Forum written all on it. Larry Fink is he got Larry. See, I'm ranting a little bit, but you get my drill. Larry Fink is at the helm of the World Economic Forum, and he is also a heavy institutional player in our country and for this administration. So you better believe they got plans. And I got a lot of thoughts, man. I got so much stuff. I'll be here long. I wanted to be here, but we ain't seen nothing yet. But like that. And so, just man, I got so much to say. Okay, but let me just get back to what I get carried away. That's another thing. I get carried away too easy. Okay, so last 6 hours, as we see here, this is what we're looking at. And so earlier today, like it's probably let me see about right here. I started noticing some things. Then it's just going up, 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 up. I'm like, okay, something's happening. And then on this chart here, 46.61. And so not really exciting, but just something to be what I consider cautious of, because I even saw Mario Manico, him and Clive talk about the fact that they meaning analysts, people consider gold to be overbought, and therefore the silver narrative would also follow suit, that it too is overbought. But then again, you got to look at the total amount of currency in circulation and the fact that you got smart money, dumb money, and people with pure credit looking for a way to profit and position themselves as things go crazy. Just because at this current moment, I believe there's no such thing as investing, because everything is turned into gambling, because there's no way of determining true value of anything because of the weaponization of the monetary structure. And of course, this administration with these tariffs is really starting to expose how vulnerable we are as a country with no backup plan. And so we got new rounds of tariffs coming. And last night I saw that he put tariffs on furniture and cabinets and kitchen sinks and toilets. I'm like, we don't even make that stuff. So how you gonna tariff foreigners for giving us what we need because we don't make it here? And anybody who does make it here, you're gonna have to up your price just out of the sheer fact that you might be one of the only suppliers in town. So why not add a little bit more on the price to make the people pay for it? So we got price gouging from the actual U.S. producer. So there's nothing good coming out of this tariff game. And of course, they know that. And so True Texan, appreciate you for the love. It says China, India, Saudi demand delivery and help us hurt the paper ETF issuers. That is definitely a probability. No doubt. What we're witnessing, in my opinion, is Eastern intervention in the Western futures manipulative games. And with the Shanghai future situation, it's not stopping. And then this is completely off the cuff, but I got to give it to you because I'm extremely confident that you haven't heard this from anyone else, because your boy tries to stay on top of stuff. So let me share something with you. This is completely off the cuff. Didn't really plan on going here, and I can see I'm going to go a lot longer than I anticipated on going, but I got to give it to my people straight. So bear with me. So True Texan, to more so add to what you're sharing here, here's something I'm sure people have not seen as well. And this is something that I and a lot of other people have been talking about, but because I've been following the de-dollarization movement for about 7, 8, 9 years now, it's the positioning of the renminbi, aka the yuan, but in digital form, that's picking up. And the Western Hemisphere, our news media, they're not talking about it. It's hush hush because the media has already positioned the primary things they want you to focus on. So all the primary financial news sources, and I noticed this as well as I comb the airways, because of the Bitcoin turbulence and the threat of a fork. The fork hurts Wall Street more than it helps them, because a part of the capturing of the network, which is going to take place, is the fact that they wanted to steer more to the left, more left, meaning more the corporate side, more the the suits and people in high places, so that they can benefit off of it first and foremost, because ultimately that's what it was created for. The Bitcoin now and all the other decentralized currencies by 2030 will look nothing like they are now. And so the fact that people don't see that is of concern as well. because as I keep mentioning, there's so many counterparty risks within the network that you can't trust anybody. And the code, as we can see here, must be maintained. So there's always going to be at least one bad actor that stands to threaten the entire sovereignty narrative and financial freedom narrative, because there's no way freedom is coming from within the same system and the same mindset that has ensnared mankind. Okay. But my point is the internationalization of the digital renminbi is picking up, because now they're setting up operation centers. And as a part of this tariff mess, it diverts the Western's attention, primarily the supporters of the current administration and those that have a lot more issues, a lot other bigger issues to worry about, from what's happening out east with the internationalization of the renminbi, because other nations must pay attention to this, because they're eventually at some point going to have to utilize this railway as well as the other things mentioned in this article. So there's three primary things that's being built out with these operation centers, and has everything to do with the de-dollarization movement and the fact that this administration wants to distract us with digital blips on a computer screen. And so my point in about the whole Bitcoin narrative was I'm seeing more. I'm seeing more propaganda, because you're witnessing people come out the woodworks and being pumped by mainstream media to come out here and say Bitcoin is still going to a million by next week. And so the figures, the fact that people can come out with these fictitious figures to suck more people in with hopium and hypium is of concern. Because mind you, once the mainstream media is supporting something outright and blatantly, you got to look at it with a little bit of grain of salt there, people. But okay. Let me get back on track. So let me just share this with you quick, and I'm gonna get back on the silver. We're gonna stick to silver, and then we're gonna move it on. Okay, but I got to get this to you, because you won't get this nowhere else until it's too late, more likely. Okay, so real quick, this came out yesterday. I'm gonna just thumb through real quick. It says China's International Operations Center from the digital RMB has officially begun operations in Shanghai, the country's financial hub. PBOC said on Thursday. The initiative is among 8 new measures announced by the PBOC governor in Shanghai. It says the center is designated to promote the internationalization of the digital currency and development of financial market services. Peep this, financial market services, while supporting innovation in digital finance. It says along with its launch, the center unveiled 3 major platforms. 3. It says, which include a cross-border digital payment platform, a blockchain service platform, and a digital asset platform. So think about that. This center will spread throughout Shanghai, and partners and collaborators and their allies will all join suit in this digital transformation that we're witnessing right now. And none of this is open. None of this is open source, free humanity type of software here. This is all closed, captured, and a continuation of what we already experienced, being led by the Eastern Hemisphere, but cross-border payments, blockchain, and digital assets. So that's tokenization, all that stuff like that. The same exact thing that the people in this side of the world is talking about as well. The same things that BlackRock is setting up. And you don't mean to tell me they're not working together? Okay, but whatever. Okay, but back to my thoughts about silver here. Okay, so what I want to really touch on is just the potential disruption and the need for a distraction. And so literally there cannot be any type of organic movement in silver and gold that gets ahead of the powers that be and their plans for the digital transition is underway, and or something to keep the masses within the boundaries that have been established. And those boundaries I'm referring to is within the same legacy style system. So gold and silver poses as a threat. And I do believe the Eastern Hemisphere is doing a lot of this disruption on purpose, because over there it's physical, over here it's paper. And it's clearly this decoupling because of the supply side. Because as we all know, you can create as much paper as you want, but when it comes time for delivery, which people are actually receiving delivery in the Eastern Hemisphere, of course, with Shanghai giving allies the option of dealing with the renminbi and receiving shipment in physical gold and silver, that's a a deal that's too hard to pass up. And of course, when the actual spot price coming from the east is always higher than the west, you're going to naturally have arbitrage pressures from the Western hemisphere. Because even though silver right now, silver and gold is still within the scope of the manipulation, it's good to say the physical gold and silver is going for a lot higher out east. So why not buy cheap here, sell high there? And you can only do that for so long before it's going to expose the criminality here in the Western hemisphere with this paper stuff. Okay. So my whole point in saying all that is because of the pace at which gold and silver is causing problems, perhaps, for the continuation of the unipolar order led by the Western hemisphere and our puppet masters, the idea of war is very probable. And then you got Eastern Europe putting pressure on Russia as if like any type of solution that deals with a kinetic war will equal a viable solution for their citizens, nevertheless Russian citizens, is complete fallacy. But in the midst of a reset, there's no amount of lives that are worth sparing to keep agendas going. Every monetary reset always ends with the same exact blueprint: debasement, more debt, distractions, and then ultimately war, and then the reboot. That's the core principles or core instruments of the fourth turning. So I'm seeing more people talk about fourth turning and all that stuff like that. So it's just, these are the times we're in. And so the price we're seeing right now of assets are still cheap, given that we all know what these have to go, because every single Federal Reserve note will be held accountable one way or another. And so being a part of things that are scarce, limited in nature, offers opportunity for price appreciation. And with that price appreciation in anything, you got to realize it's driven by the fact that fiat currency is being destroyed. So you have to figure out how to get into real tangible assets. And that goes well beyond just gold and silver. It goes with everything you need to sustain your life. And so having a strategy, having a plan, thinking outside the box, doing all types of things that, are not normal for you as a redeemer of fiat. Because I don't want to call you a speculator, because if you're, monetarily savvy, the difference between money and fiat. But then again, for the newbies out there who may not know, never know who I'm speaking to out there. But okay, so feel free to throw some thoughts, ideas, suggestions. And so I'm going to get into a couple of things that I found to be interesting. And just to highlight more of the point that I'm trying to make here is that more and more people are waking up. It's going to be hard for people to ignore the headlines as they come out. So here's just something here from Hansa, whatever. I just thought it was interesting because it talks about more of the exciting parts about silver price discovery. It says there isn't enough silver in the world for every millionaire to own 65 ounces. Sounds wild. Let's check the math. So once again, when I see stuff like this, I just share it because it's entertaining at the very least. I don't do the math because I don't have time to verify and validate everything. That's why I just leave a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. This is just edutainment. But this little thing here says, let me get you here. It says there isn't enough silver in the world, whatever. Okay, good. And so here's some math here. It says here, 3 billion ounces of silver, 47 millionaires equals 64 ounces each. So how they got the 3 billion and ounces of silver? Assuming that they would do that in idea of them getting some type of valid source of information, 47 millionaires equals 64 ounces. And what I found interesting about this is how, in the digital assets community, especially the Bitcoin community, I'm noticing a lot of panic out there. A lot of people, and my point was a lot of the propaganda is getting the key influencers to come out with their hopium. And so I ain't gonna call no names up, but I see just type in Bitcoin prices. You're gonna see people coming out. They gotta come out getting the people hyped. They can't have people go the opposite direction and going this way. You can't have people going tangible because that disrupts the reset. Okay. But it's some more stuff here. It says global investable silver above ground equals 3 billion ounces, bars, coins, ETFs. Gold millionaires, 59 million, according to Credit Suisse. Then it goes on to say, let me move my screen. But in reality is messier. Yeah. A huge chunk of the 30 billion ounces already locked up in vaults, ETFs, central banks, says the rest scattered in private hands. It says industry consumes 1.2 billion ounces annually. So no way every millionaire could get close to 50 ounces. It says, in fact, the average human being would get even less. 30 billion ounces divided by 8 billion people equals 0.37 ounces per person. If you was to bring all that into one sweet and one sought after agenda. That's barely a silver ring each. Says, now think, 65 ounces equals just a bit over 2 kilograms of silver, solar panels, gigantic silver sink. It says industrial demand eats up silver faster than millionaires could hoard it. It says this is why silver's true scarcity is hidden in plain sight. That says gold is hoarded, silver is consumed, and once used in industry, it rarely comes back. So if millionaires ever panic in the silver, the math says it all. Not enough supply, not enough ounces, not enough time. Price won't just rise, it will reprice. It says stackers already know the clock is ticking. When demand collides with scarcity, the revaluation will be historic. And so I just thought that was a well put together and articulate way of showing more of the scarcity and how, like, especially when it comes to the Bitcoin community, I see all the maxis, they love to use Bitcoin in association with the world population and saying that, 8 billion people on earth, it's only 21 million. There'll ever only be 21 million and not everybody can have one. So stack accordingly. Okay. But after this hard fork, there's going to be Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Knots. And then you're going to get two kinds. So the question is, you going to keep your core or keep your knots or keep both or dump one. Same thing happened in 2017. You got the Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin cyberpunk movement. And we got Bitcoin Cash now and we got Bitcoin. And yeah, so just going to be more Bitcoins to add to the list, of which they're all still scarce. But here's another way of looking at it. In a world of unlimited fiat, I mean unlimited, because the fiat we currently have now, the M2, it's 22 point whatever trillion, is small compared to where things will go once they cut the spigot back on. So technically speaking, and this is where people fall in love, in a sense, with a lot of the with more of the hype and the hopium rather than just looking at being more of an opportunistic person, because in doing such, you would not fall in love with anything in particular, but just use things to your advantage, which is what God gave it to us for. Everything given to us was meant to be enjoyed. And if you believe that, don't fall in love with anything. Just educate yourself on it. Use it accordingly. Just because, like I say, gold and silver has a lifeline as well. Its lifeline is our lifeline. We're not going to live long enough to really see, everything play out fully. More than likely, Lord willing, we will. But then again, if we don't, you're going to be passing out. You're stacking to pass it on to somebody else anyway. So once again, like, you got to realize how to enjoy life, live life, and be a blessing to others. But to my point about adding to the list, here is my Bitcoin asset tracker. And so here we got numero uno, dos, tres, cuatro, about to add a fifth. But once again, all four of them, 21 million each. And in a world of unlimited fiat, you better believe all four of them are not going to zero. Just out of sheer greed, people are going to run to the next best thing that they can afford. And I know the Maximus is going to continue to do what they do best, is to promote hopium. And so it's going to be easy to get people to see beyond the obvious and, be looking for answers. And so, yeah, that's why it takes, an open-minded person to really appreciate the opportunities that lie ahead, because, this Bitcoin fork from a price appreciation standpoint could be your friend if you're on the right side. But that's just me. Robbie says the BTC rug pull is going to be amazing to witness. Yes and no. As I was just mentioning, like, it's going to result in just the split of the chain. But here's the goal. Wall Street captures everything. And the fact that there's people out here who don't see that is a little bit concerning to me. But then again, I know if you're actively in the space, you make a living off of the space, then you have to really always pump hopium. You can't really be realistic. And that's why I try to be more open-minded, because I don't want to lead people astray by giving them false information as if it's true, tried, and tested. Because in 16 years, how can you have people coming out here saying that Bitcoin 100 years from now and 1,000 years from now, like, you're literally gassing people up? And I'd encourage everybody, get this book, man. Propaganda. You get this book, you go through it, it'll open your eyes up to a lot of things, because it'll allow you to spot stuff that don't smell right. You know what I'm saying? They will get mom and pops in there first. No, Rob B for sure. The executive order for the 401k, the 401k money is park bread. It's park bread. It needs to be dispersed. And this is a part of the wealth transfer. And so ultimately, if the people who are steering the old system into this new rebooted format is still in control, which they are, then they're going to end up with majority of the benefit of this transition. And they'll dangle carrots along the way to keep people appeased, so that there's no outright unrest. Because if people realize that they were being duped from either side of the aisle, they would definitely not want to lose that control. And Jojo says BSV is the real BTC research. Terra, no, BTC SegWit was founded by Epstein. It's going to be ugly when it comes out. Yeah, but here's the thing, like, just out of sheer, it'll be very unlikely that the miners that produce the blocks continuously and support the network with the hash rate will unplug, any of the lesser chains, just because it costs less to produce to work with BTG and BSV, give or take, and they're more private miners. And so for profit's sake, they're going to keep those rigs running, and the blocks will keep churning. And so once again, all the networks have to do is just stay active until the spigot gets cut on. And when the spigot is cut on, we're going to have what I've been calling for all along, which is the MAGA wealth effect. Trump's legacy is based upon this MAGA wealth effect. He can't leave office without his legacy being sealed, because he loves to pat himself on the back. He loves to toot his own horn about how great he is. And his kids are involved. The Trump empire is at stake. WLIFE, WLFI, World Liberty Financial, and their 10 billion portfolio. You probably didn't notice, but Eric Trump just became a billionaire. He just hit billionaire status thanks to Daddy. And that's one of the things, like, I'm not even mad at him, because as a father, who wouldn't position their kids in a better position than they are? That's why you really can't be mad at, Trump doing what he got to do, because his life is on the line, and I know he's a part of the plan. But I just want people to see through the BS, pardon my French, because it's that type of naivety that keeps people trapped in the system, because they think the system is capable of being saved from the same people that entrapped it. And so here you have, look, you're going to watch this. There's a lot at stake right now. So you're going to see more of this. Eric Trump just said, this was what, an hour ago? Eric Trump just said Bitcoin is about to go parabolic in the next 3 months. And so one of the pieces of propaganda that always must take place in this space is that they have to convince the people of something to come. So it keeps you locked in. So he's saying 3 months. Tom Lee gets on there, say, 20 days. And hold on a second. Let me give you another one. And mind you, all these people have a vested interest in making sure they keep hope alive. Watch this one. Look at this one. Here's a good one. Let me share this one. Here's another good one. Tim Draper says Bitcoin is going to 250,000 in the next 120 days. So you got 90 days, 120 days. I can go on and on and on, man. I can go on and on and on. But one thing they won't tell you is, wow, look at gold. You'll never see any of these heavy hitters, social influence, people with big bags coming out and saying, giving you predictions on where gold gonna be in 30 days. You might get a bank, a European bank saying, their analysts will say, yeah, gold's gonna, be at, 4,000, 2026. But the way the momentum is trending, it's good to say it's gonna be higher than that. But then again, that's priced in USD because if you use other fiat currencies, because mind you, everything is priced in USD terms because it's a global reserve currency, but not every fiat currency is accessible. Not every Federal Reserve note is accessible to the other 7.7 billion people ish that reside on this planet, and they have to use shekels and yen and yuan and pesos. So, mind you, here is let me share with you. Here is just the last 2 months. Here is the peso, Argentinian peso. So just say, last 6 months. So once again, if you went along for this ride, denominated in gold terms, you're not as desperate and destitute as people who don't realize the importance of being in something real. So I can go through the list, every single currency, just pick a currency. Bahrainian dinar, look at that, same thing going up. We got the Bolivian something or another. Let me give you some more, just because Chilean peso, look at this. Whoop, 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 look at this, just going right along, and then whoop, it just goes above my head. So let's just not focus on the price of gold and silver in USD terms, because the rest of the world within their economies locally, they don't price things in dollar terms directly. When they go in the store in Chile or in Argentina, it says pesos. When they go and whatever else. So you get my drift. But Rolf says, when will one Bitcoin buy you the universe? Yeah, I don't think that's likely. Daryl, what's up, man? Yeah, so doom is always a day away. Yeah, but then again, from a mainstream narrative standpoint, hopium is what always is being served for the benefit of prolonging and kicking the can down the road. I look at the alternative media space as being more realistic and more cautious with believing the narratives. So it doesn't necessarily have to be doom, as if like the world's coming to an end, because it's not in the capacity that we know it as of now. But the disruption of everyday life for people happens every day, and that's one of the benefits of being well versed as well as having a global outlook on things, because most people in America are American centric, meaning that they focus on their day to day and their household, their day to day, their household, their neighborhood, their state, their country last. And that's where it stops, if they get that far. In actuality, like, it's better to think about things from a 8 billion standpoint rather than a 300 million standpoint. And from that viewpoint, like, there's catastrophes happen all the time in the financial, with people finances and economy and da 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 da. So it goes on and on and on. But that's just me. Okay, well, what else? Let me get you. I'm sorry, I've been getting beyond myself. Okay, let me get you some more headlines. I'm sure that's what you came here for. But there's just some more things that caught my attention. Everything was centered around silver. But as always, when my thoughts come, I gotta let it go. And so here we get into now some of the hopium figures for silver and gold, and that's where, like, it doesn't bother me, but I don't want to geek people up without a little bit of caution in the fact that we're not going to see $500 an ounce in a normal fashion. And in a normal fashion, if it was to be the case, would probably mean disruption outside your door, because something else in broke, and literally, like, it's $500 an ounce because they need as much silver as they can get a hold of from missiles, because we already started war something or another. And so I don't even want to see $500 an ounce. To be honest with you, I really don't. Because with $500 an ounce, regardless of how big your stack is, unless you got a strategy or plan on how to do something with that to enjoy yourself, you're literally, like I said before, you run the risk of stacking for somebody else because you don't know the time or hour or day that your number might be called. So it's like, that's not doom. That's just being realistic. I'm thinking about in the Bible how you got the rich fool who told himself, I'm going to build up my barns and I'm going to be married. I'm going to enjoy myself. And then God says, you fool, because you put your trust in things and not being rich towards God. Anyway, that's just something that got my mind. But here we got gold silver ratio, 83-1 versus mining ratio. Something has to correct. And if them two figures, 83-1, 7-1, was in a rational, normal, non-manipulated world based upon future contracts that are not really there, but just instrument, created to control the banking and enslave humanity. Okay. It says a silver traded at mining ratio, it'll be $500 an ounce. So that sounds good. But once again, none of us have witnessed prices like that because the distortion is so large. That means everything around us won't make sense, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. And so let me share with you some commentary from people, from just some thoughts as to what others are saying about that. Because most people look at it from the same. My point is, don't look at your ability to have been a good steward of your finances by having prepared for events as like, I made it, I'm safe, I'm good, because 99.99% of people around you have not. So you're automatically in danger. And it's good to say, unless you are a part of a community where y'all all are locked and loaded and ready to, do what you got to do, just cover all ground. But another thing is, I don't want people to fall into the trap of being lulled to sleep because it looks like your bag is being pumped. But in actuality, this is all part of a bigger plan of which, unless people disrupt and distort the current order of things, we're going to end up worse than we are today, in a not so good way. That's just me. Somebody said silver has way too much utility, which adds to the consumption of it. Gold does not have the issue. Okay. So I'll share just some thoughts from people here. As you can see, I'll just give you some thoughts so we read through it together. Just, having a little fun on Friday. Silver should already be at least 1,200. We got, if silver moved close to that, they would mine more silver, probably a line around 16-1. Yeah, and that's where, just from talking to them, a lot of people in the mining space, like the availability of getting silver in an easier manner is becoming challenging because you got to go deeper and deeper and deeper, which requires time. And we may not have that much time. Not only that, but more than half the silver mined each year gets consumed by industrial usage. Okay, we got that. Basically true. Yeah, so most people are starting to realize that money is fake, and the BLS and the FE and the Fed understand actual. Okay, I'm squinting too much. Okay, but you guys get my drift with that. That's just kind of some things that's worth talking about. Okay. The practical applications of silver are huge in the war machine. I believe the rise in silver prices does signal incoming conflict on a global scale. I would definitely, as I hinted at earlier, and that's kind of what led me to want to log in to share my 2 cents, because at the pace we were seeing the metals go up. Like when I was looking at the screen, I was like, let me see, I'll show you where I was at. I was like probably right about the top of the screen here when I'm like, come on now. Like, come on. I'm like, come on. I'm like, bend over. Come on over. Just because I'm so used to, like, at a certain point throughout the day, they just slam it. So I'm like, come on now, it's curve over, slow down. And my point was, I'm like, man, this is because it was going the way it was going. I'm like, something ain't right. I'm like, somebody dropped something somewhere. And it's about to go. And so that upward trajectory was telling us that something was happening somewhere else. And that's what had me thinking. Jay says, what Jay? I see what you're saying about Bix. It's it won't let me click the button. Bear with me. Jay says Bix Weir was finally right about the dollar day moves in silver. Yeah, man. And those dollar days was interesting. Imagine when they 5, 10, 15, like that's when the alarms is going off for real. If it gets to 40 to 1, trade up a little. Get in, get out. I hear you. Momo said, who put on the the bail bond? Bail bond for you, Mike? Where have you been? Nice to see. Oh, Monkey, where Monkey B is. I was still here, man. Still plugging away. I just know that, I just been on YouTube for 11 years now, and they've been doing me dirty. So Rumble, as of now, has been a little bit more friendly and generous. So just producing more over there, and usually put the replay stuff on YouTube just because I know the audience not going to see it, and it won't be searchable or discoverable. But just because algos don't mess with me like that. Anybody who gives a counter narrative to what's going on is not necessarily favored by the algorithm lords. And here's proof. let me tell you. Let me show you that. Here's proof. And this is how I know where things are heading. Okay, so yesterday I did the Bitcoin narrative, and I know, I know that the angle in which I present things have to be considered, because it's always good to have an assortment of opinions as well as viewpoints on things. And the fact that as of right now, I'm going to put you on the screen here. As of right now, the fact that with all that Bitcoin noise and concern, it's a trending topic. And because it's a trending topic, save and quit. Yeah, because it's a trending topic, I know that people care. But look at the viewership I received. Let me get my screens together here. The viewership I received on that video, and I know the topic is hot. Let me share this with you. Bring my screen up here. I know the subject is hot. But as of right now, the video I did yesterday, this is how many views? 300. It's the lowest of anything. I can put up a cartoon and it'll get more than 300 votes. I can give away something. You name it. It'll get more than 300 votes on a topic that everybody cares about. But then again, you can ask yourself, how come YouTube wouldn't put this out there? Because it gives people something to consider. And maybe the words counterparty, risk is not something that is worth trending, spreading. At least let the RTD viewer see it. At least let my community see it, because that video, if you didn't see it, man, I was flowing, man. I was just giving you stuff that like really people need to consider. And with that being the case, take it with a grain of salt. I could be just blowing hot air. But then again, in a world of risk, dealing with mankind, there's one absolute, there's more, but there's one certainty, guaranteed. Anything created by man is subject to and will be corrupted. It is not possible for it not to happen because we live in a fallen world. So man's best attempt ultimately impacts somebody else's agenda. Therefore, it opens a door for greed and manipulation. Now, that could be harsh. That could be far-fetched. Name one thing that mankind has created that hasn't been corrupted. I'll leave it at that because I know there is nothing. And so that alone, amongst many other things I can talk about, lets me know that, everything that's in place is by design. Nothing's accidental. Everything is intentional. And so with that, my friends, that's just me checking in Friday. It's been a while. I'm enjoying it. And for everybody who's plugged in, if you heard anything during this live stream, which I know you have, that goes against the mainstream narrative and offers some type of counter or some type of thought-provoking idea, then I believe that this video could be worth a thumbs up at the bare minimum. It wouldn't hurt to hit a thumbs up for your boy, to show some love, because the algos are not going to push it. But then again, you never know. It could be that day. But your thumbs up could be the difference maker. Your check could be the difference maker. And then if you're new, subscribe. I'm going to commit to come back and do some lives on RTD, YouTube, regardless of the algos. But I need you to show up. I need your support. Take this video, share it so more people can find out what's going on. And so it takes a community to reach the masses. One man can't do it by himself with his rants. He needs other people who think like him to help spread the news. And with that, my friends, that's all she wrote for today. Be blessed and be safe. Love, live, learn, and laugh. Shalom.